went through all this trouble to get this great haircut. I deserve the round of applause. We need to talk. We need to have one moment of honesty before we continue with the slides. I've seen this less here, actually, at Startup Turkey than I see at a lot of entrepreneurship events that I go to. But there's still this little dream, this little hope that I sense in a lot of people that I get from our conversations, that there's just this one secret that you're missing. There's this one growth hack that's going to carry you to the stars. And people assume that because I teach at Harvard Continuing Ed and because I ran the growth team at HubSpot, that I can give you this secret if you're just nice enough to me. Now, I'm a nice guy. I will give you the secret anyways. I believe in karma. Like, I will just help you. I will tell you the secret right now. And that secret is that much like with a spiritual journey, the journey to find growth and to reach your dreams is not about figuring out the thing, the single source of truth that you will not find in this lifetime. It's about the mindset that you have while you try and figure it out. So for those of you who are spending this time looking for that one little growth hack that's going to carry you out, I'm here to crush that hope out of you, but to do that so that you can actually reach your dreams. And I'm just as guilty of this as everybody else. I feel a huge sense of regret that I grew up in the 1980s. Totally missed the 50s and 60s, this really cool period of time with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. We're doing just awesome things, this first computer revolution. And I look back on it, and don't lie, some of you do this too, I could have done that, right? If I had been around, what was his innovation? Okay, it's like people are going to want computers, and I'm going to make a nice, easy one that's a contained thing that they can just use right out of the box. I could have figured that out, right? I'm filled with this huge sense of regret that I missed the most interesting period in time. This explosion from this unconnected manual world to this connected and digital world. Unfortunately, the data doesn't back me up. The data says we live in the most interesting period in the entire history of commerce. 20, 30, 40 years from now, some bald nerd is going to be standing on a stage saying, man, I just wish that I had been alive in 2017. I could have had so much fun and made so much money. There's an old blessing/curse about may you live in interesting times, right? Now, Apple took about half a decade to get to be a unicorn, right? The billion-dollar company. And it took several decades more to become the company that it is today. And it went through several death spirals on the way. Now, we haven't actually got faster at building unicorns. We still take about half a decade or so in order to build one of these multi-billion-dollar companies, or billion-dollar companies. But there's a lot more of them out there. Instead of one or two of these companies, what was it, in 2015, we had like 91 of these billion-dollar companies. Now, some of this is because, as I've talked with some of you investors here, we have absolutely no idea how to value companies, right? Like, they have revenue. We don't know how to value that, right? But there is something, that doesn't account for enough of that. There's something special that's happening that we can tap into. So that, may you live in interesting times quote, there was a group that lived in very interesting times. It was the dinosaurs. And we tend to use dinosaurs as an insult right now, right? Like, that company's a dinosaur. I assure you that there is no one in this room who could go toe-to-toe with a dinosaur in its own time, on its own turf, and survive. Dinosaurs were freaking tough. They got scales. Look at those teeth. That guy's scary. But we were more adaptable. We survived the change in the world, and we were able to take over this new reality. Also, if we did run into a dinosaur today, we have all kinds of competitive advantages. If I ran into Mr. T-Rex here, or Velociraptor, whatever the heck that is, I'm not going to fight him. I'm going to call, the Air Force and have them bomb him from the sky, right? We've built these advantages. But the dinosaurs, as tough as they were, went through this massive extinction. where all of them died. We are in a similar time now. We're in a mass extinction of businesses. And the ones that survive aren't necessarily going to be the toughest with the biggest teeth and the toughest scales. They're going to be the ones most adaptable to change. To give you a little bit of context on how much this has changed, in the last 10 years alone, the last decade, 70% of the companies on the US Fortune 1000 are new. Richard Foster, who's a professor at Yale, estimates that by 2020, 75% of the companies on the Fortune 500 will be companies we've never even heard of. Now, this is really concerning for the companies that we have heard of. Quick round of applause. Has anybody heard of HubSpot? Yeah! All right, so like 30% of you have. All right, I'm kind of okay. But the really big companies, they're in trouble. It's a bad time to be a slow, big company in the world. This is really freaking exciting for all of you. This means that 375 slots on the US Fortune 500 are up for grabs. What a time to be alive. This is going to be really and truly incredible. All right, so the Fortune 500 used to be this defining characteristic, right? You were a Fortune 500 company. You were a Fortune 500 CEO. It's who you were. But just go ahead and shout out any guesses, unless you work at Deloitte. The Deloitte guys, stay quiet because this is your research. How long do you think a company used to stay on the Fortune 500? What was the average lifespan? Just shout out some answers. 10? Okay. 75 years used to be the lifespan of a company on the Fortune 500 list. Now, that lifespan has declined to just 15 years. From 75 years to just 15 years. And we project, that that's actually going to continue declining unless disruption is interrupted, to 5 years. Less than the amount of time that it would take me to pay off a car loan if I want to go buy a Tesla, because everybody keeps telling me to buy a Tesla. If I want to go get a loan for my Tesla, by the time I pay that off, I could be on the Fortune 500. Or if I am on the Fortune 500, I could be off. Off the list or gone entirely. And it's not because they're running out of money. We have more cash just sitting on balance sheets than at any point in the history of humanity. Trillions of dollars are just sitting there waiting to be used in liquid assets. And it used to be that this was a huge advantage, right? Like, how does capitalism work, right? You have a lot of capital, and then you beat the crap out of everybody else with your capital. Generally, the person with the most capital wins. It used to be that you could either invest in your own innovation and hire a bunch of people to help you build the next great thing, or you just let you lovely VCs, we outsource the risk to you, you guys fund the innovation, and then we just buy it from you. This is broken down. I assure you that there are plenty of people in the hospitality industry who had enough money and the desire to buy Airbnb. There were enough people in the transportation company who had the desire to buy Uber. There's a lot of you here in this room are startup entrepreneurs, and if I said to you, you got a great idea, I'm going to give you $100 million, I own your idea entirely, and you work for me now. And some of you might be pretty tempted to take that deal. I would be laughed out of the room as an idiot because you haven't proven yourself. There's no reason for me to give you $100 million for your really interesting app idea. Although those solar backpacks are awesome. I love those. You can no longer just buy your company's Uber, or your industry's Uber. You have to be your industry's Uber. That has to come from within. And this isn't just because, by the way, that only smart people only want to work at startups. I promise you that lots and lots of smart people want to work for IBM, they want to work for Microsoft, they want to work for Oracle, they want to work for HubSpot. Lots of smart people want to do this. It's because the fundamental nature of how we work is changing. Okay, I tend to get a little excited. This is my deep breathing GIF, so you can breathe in without it, and breathe out. You may feel like competition has gotten harder, like the nature of work has gotten harder, it's faster, it's more complicated. We're all more stressed than we used to be. You're not wrong. Competition has gotten harder. Work has gotten harder. And I'll tell you a little bit about why. So I teach digital marketing at the Harvard Division of Continuing Ed, and one of the people in my class worked for Toyota, and he was responsible for dealership enablement. And he told me a story about Tampa, which is the city I live in Florida. All of our dealerships used to be closed on Sunday. Everybody just took the day off. And then one day, one of the dealerships decided they were going to be open on Sundays. Naturally, soon, everybody was open on Sundays. And I still wasn't too bad, right? Okay, we lost our day off. But I'm still competing with somebody who has basically the same business model, the same cost of goods sold. Basically, like, $1 to them is worth $1 to me. They still have to pay their people the same amount of money. It wasn't too bad. It was a disruption, but it wasn't too bad. Now, I'm not competing with the person across the city. They still have to sleep. They still take off the major U.S. holidays. You know who's not sleeping right now? Us, right? Like everybody in Boston and everybody in Florida where I'm from is fast asleep right now. We're all wide awake. This is a picture of the connections between people on Facebook. It is beautiful. Everybody is connected. Everybody can be my friend. Everybody can be my customer. Very, very exciting. But it also means that everybody is my competitor. To be perfectly honest, I never used to have to worry about startups in Turkey. Right? Now, living in Boston, the fact that my company is based in Boston does not protect me from the idea that you're going to come and eat my lunch and take all my customers. I'm competing with everyone, everywhere in the world, every minute of every day, and it has changed how we work. If you're not trying to put yourself out of business, someone somewhere else is. So, continuing my Deloitte fanboyism, there's some great research done by John Hagel over there that showed how the nature of how we do business has changed, right? It used to be you'd have this invention or you'd have this idea and you'd milk it for just a really long time. You'd name your company after it, right? You were Standard Oil, you were, something like that. Like that's what you did, that's who you were. Because of the change in how we work, the value of that knowledge, instead of being 20, 30, 40, or 100 years, is now down closer to 5 years. 5 years, and the thing that you invented, congratulations, that was nice. We hope you profited from it because it's time to do something new. Interestingly, this 5 years research matches up with the same 5-year research that shows the amount of time a company can expect to sit on the Fortune 500. It used to be this nice, easy bell curve of adoption, right? You'd invent something, and then you'd have your innovators, your early adopters, early majority, late majority laggards. Your innovators are like me. I'm going to download all of your apps just to see what they do, right? Like, you don't count me as product market fit, right? Like, I'm going to do anything you want me to do just because it's cool. And then on the far side of the spectrum, you have laggards, for example, my mother, who just a few years ago switched off of dial-up internet. She was paying $29.95 a month to AOL for dial-up internet. This curve doesn't work for us anymore. This is not how we guide strategy because growth has changed. Instead of this nice, smooth bell curve over decades, we now have this massive spike. This is what we call this big bang disruption, where you have a small number of trial users, and then very quickly, maybe in just a few years, maybe in just a few months, the majority of the people who are going to use your thing are using it. It's not enough time to let disruption and let innovation happen to you. It has to happen from within you. So I want you to take that nice little bell curve and chop off half of it. That is no longer part of our profession. By the time you get there, it is too late, and you need to be doing something else. You're becoming saturated, you're becoming disrupted, you need to do something else. So instead of bell curves, we now look at S-curves. Half of the bell curve. The first phase is finding product market fit, right? Can you build something that people will use? The second phase is getting the math to work. So you look at your startup, or at least I look at your startup, as this box, right? And as an investor, I'm going to put $1 into your little box. Your box is going to do some crunching and some stuff, and then it's going to spit out maybe $3. Maybe it's going to spit out $5. That's the math, $1 into your box, $1 out of your box. Can you get that to work? Phase 3 is, can you get that math to scale? As an investor, I don't particularly want to give you $1 and get $3 back. I want to give you $1 million and get $3 million back. Can you keep pouring fuel into that jet plane to go to the stars? And in the fourth phase, you should not find yourself in. You're getting saturated, you're getting disruptive. You need to jump to a new S-curve. So we're going to quickly cover some of the basic mechanics of these four phases to help you understand not the trick, not the growth hack, right, but the mentality, the way of looking at the world that we use to figure this out. So this was missing from a lot of your presentations. I was quite frankly, I was kind of disappointed and confused when we were doing demo day or when we were doing the mentorship sessions. What do you do for who and why? John really nailed this in his presentation. The Triforce of value, right? What do you do for who and why? In software development, we usually call this a user story. As an X, I want a Y so that I can Z. In strategy research, we call this the job to be done. What is the job that the customer is actually hiring you to do? Henry Ford has the most famous quote on this, which is that if I had asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. That's not what they want. They want to get from point A to point B as quickly and as cost-effectively as possible. Any Pokemon Go players in here? Not one? Okay, a couple. All right, we can be friends. All right, we'll hang out. All right, that's awesome. This is the daily active user chart for Pokemon Go. And it's really tempting to look at this decline and say, those guys, they just never hit product market fit. Because there was this big spike of users and then it declined over time. That's only half the equation. What really matters in product market fit is, do people keep using your thing? Is user retention asymptotic to the x-axis, right? So do people can start using it, and then a certain percentage of those people should continue using it? That's your market. That's where you have your fit. You can outgrow. I'm going to tell you a secret, and it's something that a lot of us don't like to admit. You can outgrow churn for a while. You can have a pretty terrible product, and your sales and marketing team can grow faster than your customers can call in and cancel. That's fine. That's doable, okay? You can see this chart on the left over here where they have pretty bad retention, but they're still growing decently. That does not mean that you have product market fit. That just means you have a good sales and marketing team. Congratulations. Good product market fit, the layers stack on each other forever. You have this eternal growth that you can sustain over time. And you may find that your original customers are not the ones that you thought. So at HubSpot, we had these really good top-of-the-funnel tools, right? Driving traffic, and then SEO, social media, that sort of thing. And we had these really, really terrible middle-of-the-funnel tools, like marketing automation. But what we found was that even the people who use our really terrible middle-of-the-funnel tools were much better customers. They were much more likely to stay. All right, so can you get the math to work? Only one of you had this yesterday, but that's fine, because if you're in phase 1, finding product market fit, I don't care about your math. I care have you built something that people will use. But if you want to convince me that you're in phase 2, you need to be able to answer this question. So you know how much your customer is worth, right? $1,200, and you want a growth ratio of 1 to 3. Easy math. I can spend $400 to get a $1,200 customer. If you know that you can turn 10% of those leads into customers, easy math. I can spend $40 to get a lead. If you know that you turn 5% of those visits into lead, it's easy math. I know that I can spend $2 to drive a visit to my website. This is the math that you have to master in order to graduate. Starbucks, I'll use them as an example before I run out of time here, sells about a $6 cup of coffee. But if you're a marketer at Starbucks, you're not spending $2 to sell a $6 cup of coffee, because they have an average lifetime value of over $14,000. I reran this math for people who work at HubSpot. We have an average lifetime value of almost $30,000 for Starbucks. And before we went public, I used to joke that it would be worth it to them to just park a barista in our office and serve us coffee all day. That joke is not funny anymore. Apparently it wasn't funny now. Because this is a picture of our office where we have baristas that serve us coffee every day. Because our value to that company is so high. Now, I'm going to pull a pro move here, and I'm going to skip through a bunch of stuff as a teaser to get you to follow my call to action at the end. And that's a lie, because I just didn't rehearse this well enough, and I'm way over time. But the thing that I want you to come away with from this is that it's not a growth hack. There's no secret math to this, right? It's the mindset, it's the mentality, the process that you go through to make all this work. We have, my one call to action for you guys is HubSpot does have a program that works specifically with startups. If you're an accelerator, we'd love to have you in our program. If you're a startup, go to hubspot.com/startups. And we would love to work with you guys, because our biggest impediment to growth as a company, the reason I'm here, is not to sell you guys software, right? It's because most people in the world do terrible sales and marketing. They still cold call, they still spam emails, they're still like looking for that one secret to try and game the Google algorithm or whatever. Most of them are still pretty bad at that. And if you guys can be awesome at that, then all I have to do is have a product market fit. All I have to do is be the best piece of software for you guys. So go to hubspot.com/startups. We've got a bunch of resources specifically for you guys. Thank you so much.